I've seen a lot of amputees who played a lot of golf, and some didn't play at all, but they would lose their arm in a car accident, and thinking the world had come to an end, but not at all. It's out there, and you can certainly do it again.
Living their lives.
Yes, yeah. To move is to live.
Right.
To move is to live. And even if you're not doing all those athletic things, I mean, even if you just walk from this chair to that door comfortably, that's huge. Yeah.
So for everybody that's in TV land, first your name is?
Renee Rouleau.
Okay. And where do you reside?
In North Reddington Beach, Florida.
Wonderful. And we're going to go through the events that brought you to basically dealing with prosthetics. And so if you could kind of give everybody an understanding of the events that occurred and basically share that with us.
Well, I was having the time of my life, and after 2 years of driving a motorcycle, I finally had it under control, I thought, going to breakfast with my friends. But somebody came along that didn't have brakes on one side of his car. He braked, came into my lane, his left bumper and my left leg met, and I went flying to the side of the road. And fortunately, somebody stopped and they got the medics there, and a helicopter just happened to be flying overhead, a medical helicopter. So I guess I wasn't supposed to die that day. And it was there at the little local hospital, and they knew they had to take me to a trauma center, and they did. And I fought, it was hurting, and I'm saying prayers and all kinds of things, but, well, at the hospital they said they just, the blood circulation was stopped and they had to remove it, and I fought and fought, but they got their way. And so I woke up eventually, and there I was with half a leg. And
well, I want to just say this to you. Riding a motorcycle, and a female riding a motorcycle, when was that? What year was that?
1994 on 9/11, and I thought I would forget the date.
Yes,
9/11.
right, 94, and so. It was starting to come in as far as the style for girls to ride bikes, but you were a little bit ahead of your time in that sense in 94 by riding a motorcycle. And what kind of bike did you have?
I had a Honda Shadow, a 650.
Oh yeah, it's a big bike.
I had a boyfriend that we rode everywhere.
Yeah.
In fact, I could study and do things and read on the back of the bike, and did lots of traveling in Europe.
Sure.
And he really thought it'd be great if I learned to drive my own.
Yeah.
And I worked at it. It took me a long time. You'd think I was trying out for the Olympics, because I was at every parking lot trying to turn it and get down and make those turns.
Sure. That's a pretty good sized bike, 650. I remember when I was a little boy, at 13 years old, I started mowing lawns to get the money together to buy a Yamaha 60. And I was the only kid at Adams Junior High with a brand new motorcycle, and I would drive that thing all over the state. Of course, I only had a top end of about 55. But I had some spills on that, and then later I ended up getting on a wreck in San Bernardino Freeway at about 65 when my sleeping bag got stuck in the chain and it froze up, and I saw two headlights coming at me, and I was dragged for about 35 feet under the car, but the roll bars kept me from losing my legs. So I always recommend to everyone, no matter where they are, to always get roll bars on their bikes, because it may not look cool to some folk, but it'll save your legs. So it basically scraped on the roll bars and not me. So I was very thankful that I could actually walk out of the hospital, even though my foot was kind of sideways on my leg, and it took me quite a while to get healed. But having that experience, I do understand what a major motorcycle wreck can be. You're very fortunate to still be alive.
I think so too.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So here you are, you're riding in what area of the state?
Well, going to breakfast on a Sunday morning, leaving Fort Pierce, Florida, where we met the other people, and drove down toward Okeechobee for breakfast about 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I should have gone to another meeting that day, but I didn't. We had one of my my New Skin meetings in West Palm. Had I done that, I probably wouldn't be here. But
right. So,
we don't know what
well, you never know. You could, you know, people think that just because they could have been doing something else, that their destiny wouldn't have pulled them into something, but you could have gotten killed in a car. So, I mean, you know, thinking that you've got any special protection outside of the providence of the mercy of God keeping us alive, we really don't. You know, it is amazing when you can walk, or, you know, and right now you're walking. So, and we're going to be looking at your prosthetic. It's amazingly beautiful, by the way. We're going to be talking about this emotional situations and the physical situations. So really kind of get a little bit into what was going through your mind while this was going on and how you dealt with it.
Well, yeah, it took a few days for sure. And I was in the hospital a couple of weeks at a trauma center in Tampa, Florida. And then I was released and went home. And my boyfriend took care of me. It slowly got better, but it kind of hit me that what happened, and you know, I had my crying times, and I dug for information too. Where could I get some help? Where were there any support groups? Who else in the world would be like me? And so that took a little bit of digging, and you know, eventually when I could drive a car again, I even drove 70 miles to go to a support group meeting, and I sat with people that were maybe 89 years old, and I didn't care how old they were, but they were missing a limb, and I just had to be around somebody else that was in the same situation. And there is a national group that we have of amputee support group, and they have a phone number, and I started going to, you know, getting information from them and their publications. So I guess as soon as I could, I did something called, I embraced the disability, but I didn't know I was doing that. And after talking to different people, and there was a radio show that I thought it was kind of fun because I could stay in bed on Saturday mornings and be on the radio show, and they talked there too about embracing the disability. So in other words, open your arms up. You're there. You do only have one leg. As soon as you adjust, as quick as you can to make the best of it, and you're always so happy because it could be worse. It could have been 2 legs. It could have been an arm. And or no arms and no legs. And there are people that survive that way too. So you're glad that there wasn't anything else wrong, and I was able to heal.
Yes, that's an important thing, is to, you know, everything starts in the mental realm and goes into the physical realm. So the attitude is so important when you're dealing with your life. You know, there are statements. Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. Another thing he said was, never, 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 you know, and basically give in. And so perseverance is a talent, and it's an innate quality that we have if we activate it. And so many people do not activate it. And the whole purpose of this program is to encourage anyone out there that's sitting in a wheelchair, not walking when they could get a prosthetic and walk, and how to learn how to make that work in their lives. And that's a mission of this particular show. So we're going to cover a little bit about that aspect of the recovery after the mental anguish and the physical anguish, which I'm sure was great.
Yes, and it kind of goes on. You know, you do have phantom pain every now and then, and
people ask questions about that.
Yes.
Have you felt your toes?
Oh yes, and there, you know, definitely you feel that. You feel your shin, and which I don't have anymore. And I'm off just below the knee. They were fortunately that they could save the knee, so that was a blessing. And
right.
So you didn't. I'm a below knee amputee,
right.
instead of being an above knee amputee.
So when I went to a meeting last night, they said the ones that are below knee have no right to whine. That's because true. The guys That's above right. knee have it worse.
They do.
Yeah, so they kind of called them wimps. They said, those guys are whiners. And I said, well, I don't know about that. It seems pretty rough no matter what the situation.
Something happened as I was in my recovery. You know, I did eventually go down to the support group, but I was so hot. It was Florida. It was now October or November, and I was just, I was warm, and there I was trying to get the leg to work and all that. And I was reading about amputees in the publications I'd gotten, and that they would go skiing. And I had taught myself to ski in Michigan, and I was just dying to do something, you know, to be cold and go skiing. And they were advertising something going to happen in February. So I was about to start the physical therapy, and I did that. And I certainly recommend a lot of physical therapy. I must have had several months of it. And so when February rolled around, I finally had gotten a leg, and I was going to go off and ski up in Vermont, and it was like 4 or 5 days, and just for amputees. And so I did that. But then once I got there, I thought, oh, I'm really scared. I don't know that I want to do this. And I took my leg off, and I had to use the crutches that are like skis, or crutches with skis on them, called outriggers. And I was really scared, and I would barely go down the hill. I wouldn't do what they told me to do. And that night I went in and I prayed for rain because I was so scared. I wanted it to rain, and it rained a little bit. But anyway, the next day I did a little more and a little more, and eventually I won a race, which was just amazing. I went down the hill, it was all timed. And it was the highlight, and that was the turning point for me, that I now was okay as an amputee, because had I not been an amputee, I wouldn't have had the experience of winning that ski race.
Wow.
So that
amazing.
Part made me feel better. And Can You Fly, you know that song with the oh, I'm flying, and I was driving back to the airport after leaving that event, and I was just on seventh heaven. So my daughter picked me up at the airport, and she could see the difference in me, that I now, you know, really embrace the disability.
You can conquer things.
Yeah, and I went skiing from then on. I went to Colorado, and we did a lot of amputees ski. And after that, got very involved with golf, and a lot more golfing than I ever did when I had 2 legs.
Cool.
I'm not a great golfer, but there aren't that many women that do it in the whole United States. So I certainly recommend that they all get involved with their golf activities as amputees.
Yes.
We have a national organization.
Right.
So that's great.
So you went from a little depression and kind of to a conquering state.
Exactly.
And I understand from your experiences trying out all these different formulas, if you want to call it, for the prosthetic, that you found somebody that was really aware of what was going on, because he is an amputee himself, and he studied quite a lot. That's Bill Copeland. So
yeah.
Bill helped you in a lot of ways, didn't he?
Well, yes. I didn't know the word prosthetist. You know, I thought it was somebody you went to, you should be very close to, home, because they would take a screwdriver and turn a few screws or do something with your leg after it's on. I had no idea what it was about. But I knew I had to find somebody good that I was comfortable with. That's what my doctor had said, the fellow that did the amputation. And at the moment, that time, it was his very first amputation. He didn't tell me that right away for a long time, but I'm sure he's done many more since. So anyway, he said, find someone you're comfortable with. So I drove. I wasn't living in the area where I do go now for my prosthetic work. I've since moved there, but I traveled around and visited probably 15 different prosthetists before I made a decision, and it was the right one, and I've been so happy ever since, because as a baloney amputee, I should really have a good fit. That's the easiest for all of them to fit, and when I ever come across other amputees that aren't walking well, they certainly need to switch prosthetists, and that's the crux. If you have a good prosthetist, that's 50% of the battle on being able to walk on your new limb, your prosthetic.
So the key is having someone who has a total understanding and comprehension of what it's like to experience this, and then have the ingenuity and the talent to be able to prescribe the right, let's say, interface, which is a word I'm going to be using quite a lot on these this series. But the interface is a key part of this, isn't it?
It is. It sure is.
What is the interface?
The interface would be where your body meets the limb.
Artificial part.
And have it be comfortable and
right.
not hurt, and have it's molded. Fortunately, my prosthetist is like a sculptor. He's really an artist, and he can design and shape to fit. Everybody is so different. There
right.
isn't any one fit.
Sure.
So, and it's. I learned at the beginning. I would check with other associations on how to pick a prosthetist or choose somebody, and they would say it's like a bell curve. On the top of that bell, there's only maybe 5% in the whole United States that are really, really good. It's the same way with doctors too.
Right.
I think we all know we've had to change doctors and go on and look. Well, with prosthetists, there's just a small percentage that are really at the top. And I know if I hadn't found, or if he didn't live close to where I live now, I would just get on a plane and travel to New York or California, wherever someone as qualified as he would be.
Well, I understand there are people that have actually traveled from all over the world.
They do. They come from Europe and all over to see him. But it does make your life different. There are certain things. Some days you're going to feel because there's something internal going on, it might be affecting the limb, but it's nothing to do with the fit. And it's the best fit that it could ever be. And so I am so grateful, and I would always be happy to help other amputees to steer them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Searching for a prosthetist.
I've heard others talk about Bill Copeland's work, and I personally really didn't have any encounter with this world, and by being able to be a part of this, I feel very, very privileged. I've been through a lot of experiences in my life that have been painful as far as emotionally, but never actually dealt with this. A lot of times you want to just turn the TV off when someone's talking about this, and instead of dealing with it, or people get to a point where they feel uncomfortable around someone. And I've grown in time to learn that everybody has flaws. That's one thing we were talking about last night. There's not a perfect person walking around. And so it could be all kinds of emotional problems, or it could be physical problems, but everybody's got problems. And if they don't think they do, that's their problem. So we've got to come to the point in our lives where we learn to go on. And I don't care what's going on in the world, we still have to go on. I want to be living to the last breath, and really living to the last breath. And every breath is a gift. So I know you realize that many times over. Is that true?
I do.
Yeah.
You really just go with the flow. I totally forget that I'm an amputee, and a lot of people forget that I am too. I play golf with lots of amputees, and that's or ski with them. But I also play golf with tons of people that we call them normies. People.
I know. I heard that name. I'm a normie. Huh? A normie. Oh, okay. I said, well, you guys that are amputees, do you mind hanging out with normies? Oh, no, we don't mind hanging out with normies. I'm glad to hear that. And it is a club, it is a world, it is kind of an organization of people that have been through a common experience. you're not a military person, so you didn't acquire this in the military. You were just an adventuresome female that was out riding on a 650 motorcycle, which I know motorcycles and I know how big that is. That's a big bike you're not a real big person, so it would be very hard for you to lift it up if you're dumping it, but you know, it's got a lot of power too. I mean, that would carry me and I'm twice your weight. So I'm thinking, wow, you know, that's pretty tough. And I admire tenacity. And tenacity, you know, if you read the Bible, it always says about perseverance, and I believe in that. I believe faith is very important. Having a focus and a hope in your heart is very important. So how would you encourage someone dealing with this issue in their lives? I'm going to try to get that word out from every person that's dealt with this situation. How would you encourage someone who's sitting watching this show thinking, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm still rolling around in the chair instead of getting prosthetics? I've seen people like that, and it upsets me when I know that there's somebody like Bill Copeland, and I'm sure there's some other great men that do great work that can provide a service that would take care of them to get them into a point where they can recover mentally and emotionally. How would you encourage folks?
Well, they certainly have to go out and visit prosthetists and see how they feel. I'd be happy to help anybody individually if they'd like to phone me, and I can give them some suggestions and make them feel better.
We'll put your name up and your phone number on the screen. It'll be printed at the bottom of the show right as the show's going on, and we'll take our time. And that's a wonderful invitation that you personally have taken in other people's lives and willing to basically try to help others. So I think that, you know, and if you're watching this show or you know someone who's injured and missing a limb or two limbs or other issues similar, that please contact Renee, and we'll also put the phone number on the screen for our my show, as well as other phone numbers and contact points. So this show is for you, amputees. This show is for you, and it's also for you normies who have no idea what it's like to be an amputee. So we want to include you in this as well, like my first experience with it. I did have a friend that was missing, he had a problem with two legs, had a motorcycle wreck, and dear friend, I used to have come over to my house all the time, Kelly Crook, and he was just the most beautiful person, and my kids adored him. And so, you know, I've had some encounters, but I just want you, if you're a normie out there, make sure that you don't, you know, just, hey, this is just a person. It's like wearing a hat, okay? Or a coat, or a ring on your finger, or a pair of gloves. Get over it, all right? Don't make anyone feel uncomfortable. Just talk to somebody like, hey, how are you doing? It's great, beautiful day. Because the folks that go through this really have to have character to make it through. And that's what I admire about anyone in any circumstance, that they can continue to go on. So, any more that you'd like to say about that?
Well, it's just, since golfing is all over the world, and I have played pretty much all over the world, I see people that are, you know, their limbs, they may have both their limbs, but they can't use them. They're in special little chairs. They're out there golfing. And I have seen some of the most spectacular golfers in the world play golf as amputees. One fella without an arm and a leg got a double eagle, and I didn't even know what it was at the time, but my goodness, I certainly know now, and I don't know how many times that could happen. So not too many in a lifetime, but the whole world is there waiting, and especially the golf and skiing, both of those sports, golf is so adaptable that even if you haven't started, it's not too late to start. And all you need is really one arm for golf. Wow. You don't even need two arms, and you don't need your legs if they don't work. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I have found. And actually, the other arm gets in the way sometimes.
Wow.
I've seen a lot of amputees who played a lot of golf, and some didn't play at all, but they would lose their arm in a car accident, and thinking the world had come to an end, but not at all. It's out there, and you can certainly do it again.
Okay, so we're going to talk about...
Am I on now? Or?
Well, just don't worry about whether you're on. Just relax, okay?
Okay.
Don't get nervous.
No.
No. This is fun.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Meg Wolf, and I'm here from Portland, Maine.
Whoa, that's a long way to fly in.
It's so worth it, though.
Yes.
Because I come to Florida to Bill Copeland Prosthetics because I'm an above-the-knee amputee for 24 years, and he's the only person that has ever been able to fit me so that I can walk comfortably.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, I know Bill, he's an amazing fellow. He really is. So I'm going to be asking, well, you were talking about something, okay. People that are in wheelchairs, Meg, why do they stay in wheelchairs? Like, for instance, you were giving an example, like cooking food or going to the sink.
Yeah. Well, see, I need a leg because that's my profession. I'm a professional cook. And I need a leg, even just to stand. I can do much more than just stand at the sink, but I do need to stand at the sink. And that's really important, to have a two legs to bear weight on both legs. But I can understand very well why people get discouraged after going to a prosthetist and getting a leg that doesn't fit well. They're told many things, which I feel is blaming the victim. They're told if the prosthetist is unable to fit the leg, and it's much harder to fit an above-the-knee amputee than a below-the-knee amputee. And many prosthetists, if they cannot fit the above-the-knee amputee, will tell them, and I know this because I've been told, you're too thin, you're too heavy, you're not trying hard enough.
Wow, yeah.
And that's a big blow when you're already down, because when you have a leg amputated, all of a sudden it takes a lot of energy away that you had before. So your spirits are already low. And then the prosthetist, if they tell you you're unable to get a leg because you are 20 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight, most people believe that. And then they don't try. So they go in the wheelchair or they go on crutches in one leg. And that really doesn't need to be. I would encourage people to don't give up. You know, if your prosthetist tells you that, you need to go to someone else.
Right.
But I would really investigate. You want to go to amputee support groups, and you want to look and you want to see who's an above the knee and are they walking well. That's the key. Right.
Let me get this just right. There we go. Yeah, so the weight isn't really the factor. It's talent.
No.
It's talent, isn't it?
It's talent. I mean, it's a hard thing to fit an above-the-knee prosthetic. It takes a person that has not only the technical ability, but you have to have an artistic sense. And Bill Copeland has that. He's both a technician and an artist. And why I say those two qualities are needed is because everybody is so different.
Right. Yeah, we're all made to be unique.
We're all made to be unique.
And God created not robots. So what you're talking about is a lot of these facilities pump out prosthetics like it's a factory.
Yes.
And if you don't meet the criteria that they've set, or the boundaries, very limited boundaries, you don't get the help you need.
Yeah, very limited boundaries. And the problem is this is one industry where if the leg doesn't fit, it's not like you can take it and get your money back. It's like you're stuck. And these prosthetics are very expensive. They cost tens of thousands of dollars, especially for the knees and the feet. That's where all the technological advances have been made, with the knees and the feet.
Right.
And those cost, I mean, you know, they can run you, for one prosthetic knee, it can run you, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. But the problem is that if your socket, the part that your limb goes into, if that doesn't fit comfortably, then you can't even wear the leg. And many prosthetists don't take the time, once they have sold you the components, the knees and the feet, there isn't as much motivation to get the socket to fit. And that's why many amputees, it ends up in the closet.
Wow.
Yeah.
When they could, if they had the right design, the individualistically designed for the person, artistically designed. In other words, if it was custom made for the individual, and someone was spending more time with them personally, instead of looking at them as just another person on a seat coming into a clinic and going, Mr. and Mrs. you know, and a microphone, you know, I mean, you know, is that what your life is? Or is there another option out there? And, you know, can you find the artist that's available to help you live your life and walk? You know, get a life and walk. And so, you know, I'm thoroughly in harmony with what you're talking about as far as understanding the importance of the what they call the interface. And the interface is the segment between the bionic and the human dimensions, the artificial, prosthetic, and the person. So being able to get mobile is very important. Now, I'm going over individuals' personal lives here, and of course you're encouraging folks that are watching on our show. But the thing that I need to do is tell me a little bit about what happened, how this all occurred to you in the first place.
It all happened when I was, I'm 57 years old now. It happened when I was 33. I had a bone tumor in my knee, and at the time they told me it was a 80 to 90% chance of a cure if they amputated the knee, the leg above the knee. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I was a young mother at the time. I was living in Oregon, and at first I went to the prosthetist in Oregon that my doctor recommended, and I had this big old leg, and I could barely walk on it. And at the time, my kids were 5 months old and 3.5 years old. So I would always be down on the floor with them, my daughter changing her diaper, or my son trying to, you know, run after him at the playground, but I couldn't do it with the prosthetic that I was made. And so I went back to the prosthetist and I said to him, how do I sit on the floor with this big leg? And he said, ma'am, you can't do that with a prosthesis. So at that point, that was 1990, and even back then I thought, okay, there has to be something better than this. So I went to another prosthetist in Oregon, still wasn't able to get fit. I went down to San Diego, the La Jolla area, I still wasn't able to get fit. And it was really depressing because I wasn't used to going away from home by myself, leaving my children. My journey continued. I went up to Seattle. Still wasn't able to get fit. So this was like all in a 1.5 years time. And then, actually, Bill Copeland at the time was working in Oklahoma. And I read an article about a woman that was a model. And her name was Ivy Gunther, and she was able to walk on her prosthetic leg. And so she went to the facility where Bill worked at.
Wow.
And everybody was telling me, you know, no, you can't go there, it's too far. But in that article, I read that you know, this place was the one exception, and Bill was the man behind all that.
Right. He was the man that a lot of folks cherish.
Yes, and he was a man that a lot of folks ended up seeing for above-the-knee prosthetics after they had seen a whole slew of people who couldn't fit them.
Right.
And I think the thing that makes Bill unique is that he's an above-the-knee amputee himself.
Yes, and that does help as far as the emotional and the mental facets of, to understand the depth of this situation. And, and again, that's what I'm here for in this show, is to encourage folks to not give up, to realize there are better ways, better options, and they don't have to just throw in the towel, get back in the ring, keep swinging, keep fighting. You got a life. It's a gift from God. Live your life, be complete. I had one of my interviews, a lady likes to dance. So I thought, well, that's pretty far out. A lot of golfers out there, people jumping out of airplanes, young fellow joining the police department. You're a cook, a professional cook. So, I mean, look at this. These are not stories of failures. These are stories of people who have overcome obstacles and are going forward with their lives to the point where they're actually living their lives.
Yes, yeah. To move is to live.
Right.
To move is to live. And even if you're not doing all those athletic things, I mean, even if you just walk from this chair to that door comfortably, that's huge. Yeah.
Okay. So are we going to get a chance to see your prosthetic?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me turn the camera off and we'll get into that. Okay. So, Meg, you're going to show us your balance here right now, how you're balanced.
Yeah.
Okay. And here, maybe we can have you move back just a little bit.
Sure. Do you want to get this right out of the way?
Yeah. Move back a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't see yourself, so I'll have to show you what.
Okay, that's all right. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Should you get the,
yeah.
I'm thinking that I see there's more space up here and you can't see my feet.
Oh, you want to see your feet?
Yeah. Well, just because then they can, okay, but you still got to see my head.
Yeah, that's all I've got. I'm going to have to concentrate on your lower body at this point.
Okay.
Okay, so you're showing us what you're going to just show us exactly. Okay. This is show and tell time, baby. Come on, it's live.
I love show and tell.
Okay.
I'm so happy to have my leg fit like this.
Okay.
Before I went to Bill.
Yeah.
And a lot of amputees have this problem.
Right.
Where the leg actually it fits more like this, so it's sticking out, gapping.
Right.
And especially being a woman, you don't want to have to buy extra pant sizes.
Right.
Like if you're a 10-year-old.
You know what? That sounds pretty crazy to me, actually.
Yeah. And so it's just really nice to be able to wear a pair of pants and have the prosthetic side be flush with my hip.
Right.
And as you can see, I'm also in very good alignment.
Right.
I'm not like like this.
Right.
So after I got my leg, it's like it felt good to like, wow, I have two legs. I can stretch like a normal person.
Right. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like both legs are equally
shaped and aligned.
Yeah. And
like going to the garage, get your wheels aligned, right?
Exactly. And I used to get really bad headaches before that. I was going to the chiropractic, sometimes up to 3 times a week.
Wow.
And now I don't have to do that. And that happened almost immediately after I was fit by Bill for the prosthetic.
Okay. So can we see the bottom of your prosthetic?
Yeah, actually I can. Can I sit down in this chair?
Sure.
Yep. I have a beautiful prosthetic.
Okay, let me get a little close-up of this. There we go. Ooh, yeah.
But then again, it's not really even just the cosmetic cover, because if my socket didn't fit.
Now listen, what I'm trying to say, when I'm looking at this, it looks like a normal leg.
Yeah. I'll show you my
with it looks like a normal leg.
Yeah.
With one of those stretchy things for your knee.
Exactly. And that's why I wear this, because when I wear my shorts, I want to just make it look like I have some kind of a athletic thing on.
And I guarantee if you wear nylons, it probably even looks more invisible, doesn't it?
I mean, it's being an amputee and having spent time on crutches in one leg.
Look how beautifully shaped it is. It's almost identical to your other leg in every degree.
It's really wonderful.
Wow! Wow! Wow!
Yeah, it is great. It really uplifts the quality of my life.
Well, you know, I believe that before anything happened to you, that you were a vibrant and bubbly person, and that really your personality has just been the same, maintained throughout it. And you just got a hurdle, and you went over the hurdle and said, okay, now what do we do now?
Yeah.
Instead of staying in the doldrums, I would say the doldrums is a place where there's no beat. Well, it looks like you didn't stay in the doldrums. It looks like you got the beat.
Yeah.
And you're still on the street.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you didn't feel the heat. So, this is kind of sweet. Okay, all right. Enough of my ridiculous poetry. But yes, and this is such a blessing to be able to be a part of sort of a movement. This is a movement. I feel like I'm some kind of radical here, stirring the masses up. Hey, listen, if you got a friend in a chair, or if you are in a chair and you don't want to be there, don't be square. Make sure you can, that you look into all respects of the solutions of your life.
Yes. I mean, I hear stories about people that are on crutches with one leg because they're too high up of an amputation. As a matter of fact, when I flew into Tampa last night, the man at the rental agency, I started chatting with him and why I was here, and I mentioned I came down for my prosthetic, and he was really surprised, and I said, yeah, there's this really great prosthetist here in Tampa named Bill Copeland. I said, do you know anybody that's an amputee? And he said, well, I actually have 3 friends that were in Iraq, and he said one of them is not wearing a leg. And that really saddened me.
It should.
And
Whoa! All right, so we had a camera crash here a minute ago. You were talking about being at the airport.
Yes. So I was speaking with this gentleman, and we were chatting, and I told him why I was in Florida to see Bill Copeland, this amazing prosthetist who's able to fit many different types of residual limb, as we call it. And he was saying his friend, who is a veteran, doesn't wear a prosthetic leg because he is amputated too high up. And that's not an excuse when you live in Tampa and there's this amazing artist. I like to call him an artist rather than a prosthetist.
He's an artist. He's an artist, a musician.
Yeah.
He creates stuff, a lot of stuff that nobody else does that I've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, he can take anything that I know of and put it together in any kind of thing that you could think of. So in a sense, he is an artist.
He
definitely
is an artist. And he also is very caring, and he wants to get it right.
Right.
Not everybody has all those qualities put into one person. But what I wanted to say is that for the higher
you told the guy.
Yeah, because I said, Bill can make this custom-made liner for those people that are really short, higher-up amputees that's actually comfortable. And I mean, it's possible, and some people don't believe that's possible because they've gone to a prosthetist that has told them that it isn't. And it only isn't because that prosthetist can't do it.
Yeah, so talent is very important when you're looking for a prosthetist.
Yes.
Which is a hard word to say. I had to practice that quite a while. Prosthetist. Everybody out there, prosthetist, prosthesis, and prostheses.
Yes.
That's 2.
Yes.
All right.
You practice well.
I messed it up quite a few times in the beginning. I'm finally getting it. So, in other words, what we're saying here is don't give up.
Don't give up and...
Don't give in.
Don't give in, because...
There is an answer.
Yes.
If you keep looking. And
I'm one of those supposedly hard to fit people. I have a pretty high up amputation. My bone is very exposed on the end, so Bill really works with me to make that area comfortable. And it takes a lot of time, which nobody else has ever bothered to take. Well, but because of that...
I think that's because he lives in the amputee world.
Yes.
You know, it makes a big difference when you've got an external person who, and I feel privileged to be invited into this as a normie. I'm a normie. Folks, if you don't know what a normie is, that's normal people, you know. But I can understand how we can get that category. And I know so many people that sit around wasting their lives with no ambition and no drive. And they're not having problems, but they're not doing anything. And here we are, I'm exposing you to groups of people who have overcome incredible obstacles. And if there's one thing about me, it's get over it and go on. Life is not a pity party unless you want to stay in that party. Life is a journey that you create from your own decisions.
Yeah. Well, if you really think about it, life is one challenge after another. That's life. And what you do with those challenges are really what is important.
They're either lemons or lemonade.
Exactly.
We should be serving lemonade. We'll get a little lemonade stand out there. Serve lemonade. This is for all you people who, you know, want to know what the answer is.
Yeah.
So you've been able to raise your family as a result of this. You've been able to spend time with your children, and you basically have come out the other side a winner. Oh. There are people in the Olympics. There are people. I mean, I've heard so many stories. I didn't know about this. I mean, this is all new to me.
Yeah.
And my whole mission right now, and I feel it's important, is to make a call only to people that are out there watching the show to go find a good prosthetist and get your solution. Okay, yes. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Find a good prosthetist, get your solution, and get on with life. Yeah. Don't stop, don't miss a beat, don't miss a step.
Yeah. Well, the thing too to be careful for the recently amputated people is that there are big corporations that actually send their people to the hospitals to basically enlist them in their prosthetic facility. And those aren't always the best ones. So I really would encourage people, if they're recently amputated, to take their time, to do their homework, to visit prosthetic facilities, even if it takes a little bit more time.
Not go to the first one.
No, don't go to the first one. Talk to them and ask them if you can talk to some of their patients.
There you go.
And I think it's really important, especially for the above-the-knee amputees, to see how the prosthetists, other clients, are walking.
Right. And the thing about this, that's like a big machine. Everybody's coming in and getting one of those recalls.
Yes.
You know, it's like going to a car dealership and say, yeah, I just bought a recall today. It doesn't work at all, but I mean, I was there.
Yeah.
Well, what were you doing there? Well, I was herded like some kind of cattle, you know, into their little pen, where they would tell me, okay, we're making a lot of money off of this because we just, our particular facility gets paid for this, for something you could never use.
Yes.
Isn't that sad?
It is sad because it really affects an amputee's life so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're here to change lives.
Yes.
And if I can't change lives, I don't really see the purpose of this. But I do know right now that it is possible to change lives. And there are solutions. You just have to find them. You have to search for them. It's all about finding the right answers in your life. And you know, you've really encouraged us. You're a cook.
Yes.
A mother. What are some of your favorite activities?
Spending time with my family. I like to walk. I love to walk. At one point, I was doing a lot of downhill skiing. Of course, I learned to do that without my prosthetic. I didn't ski before, but after I lost my leg, I heard that amputees could learn to downhill ski as well as people with 2 legs. So I decided to try that. I loved it. And because of that, my children learned to ski.
All right.
And they became actually ski racers.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was, you know, it was really wonderful for our family. And so that's one thing that I wouldn't have done had I been able to keep my 2 legs.
Now, you say you didn't use your prosthetic on the ski slopes?
No, for an above-the-knee amputee for skiing, you ski with 1 leg, and then you have crutches that have little skis on the end. They're called outriggers.
Wow.
So I learned to ski basically at the same time that my kids learned to ski.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've heard of all these activities that the folks, the amputees, go to, their gun ranges and archery places and ski slopes that they go to. It all is, and there's a lot of wonderful organizations that will actually provide the flights and provide everything.
Yeah, it's
they
amazing.
get to go on these trips and free of charge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's wonderful that there are people out there helping. So, you know, but you did use your prosthetic to get to your skis.
Oh yeah, actually that was very important. And I was going to Bill at the time. I was able to actually help my children's ski team. I would every weekend I was living in Oregon at the time. I would go from Portland, Oregon, take the bus up with them.
Wow.
The prosthetic fits so well that I was able to help unload the skis from the bottom of the bus.
Wow.
And I was able to get the kids into their classes.
Wow.
And then, I mean, it takes a well-fitting prosthetic to be able to do that.
You know, I was talking to, and I was so amazed by Kelly Martin's testimony when he was talking about running for the health part of his you know, application for the police department, and how he ended up running over a mile. He had to run a mile in a certain length of time, and he completed his goal, and he achieved it. And we, of course, have Olympians that are running, you know, in the Olympics, in the main Olympics now, that are have prostheses too. So we've got just one after another of you know, these testimonies of people conquering the mountain and getting to the top and looking back and saying, you know, I don't have to go back there. Now I can go up and further, and I can go on to bigger and better things in my life. And that is such a wonderful, encouraging message to receive for the rest of the folks out there that are watching this show. And that's what this show is all about. It's opportunities for people to get information. We'll have information numbers. We'll have people that they can talk to, that they'll be able to voice their problems and their needs, and basically to organizations that they can go to, some of these events that are going on. All of this we're going to have available later on in the show. So at the end of each show, there'll be information. So you can look at that information for your own sake, for your own life, to change your own world. And that's what we're here for, and that's an important part of your future. So don't take it for granted. Don't just watch this show and sit there in your wheelchair, or watch your friends sit in a wheelchair when you know you can help them, even if it's above knee, way up high. You can even help them. You can help anybody that you hear in your ear, the sound of their voice.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to change their lives radically. So Anything else you want to say to anybody out there?
Well, I would be happy to speak with anybody. You know, if you want to give my contact, I would be happy to, you know, share my story or any, you know.
You know, I keep seeing that willingness that is amazing. Actually, Renee offered her phone number publicly, and I'm thinking, well, wow, that's pretty amazing that someone would want to do that.
Yeah.
And Meg, that's a wonderful thing, and we will have your phone number up on the screen in case someone has questions about what to do next. So we're here to help. This is a community project. This is to help the community. This is here to help the people in the community to have a better life and live a total life, complete life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna come around there for a minute. You know, you get to see, I'll be standing, actually I'll probably just stand right behind her.
Okay. Yeah.
Here I am back here. All right, folks. You watched it live here on our show, and this is Richie Z with Starfire Productions. And this is Meg Wolf, and we're going to do whatever we can to help the community with our community topics. So God bless you. Have a great day. Okay, we'll see you. Bye-bye. Meg, I want you to tell me about your book. What is your book?
My book is actually a recovery story. It's not only about my my journey through getting the prosthetic leg and the bone cancer, but 7 years after that, I was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. And I was given very little hope, even with conventional medicine, which I did some of. But I was still told that the cancer would most likely come back within a year in the same spot. And so I decided to change my diet. A naturopathic doctor told me that some women with breast cancer had been helped by a macrobiotic diet. I had actually read a book about that several years earlier. So I decided that's what I'm going to do. I hit the ground running. I found a teacher that taught me how to cook. I started reading every book about macrobiotics, cancer and diet, cancer and health, because I had a background as a nurse. And within a year, I was off medications for ulcerative colitis. I was off medication for anxiety. What else did I take? You know, a lot of over-the-counter stuff. But basically, I healed my body. And better than that, 16 years later, I'm cancer-free. And now there's actually scientific evidence, long-term studies that prove that a plant-based diet is the best diet to prevent cancer and sometimes even heal cancer. I wrote 2 books. I wrote my first book, my journey through that, is called Becoming Whole. And then later, several years later, I wrote a cookbook.
And cool. What's it called?
It's called A Life in Balance, Plant-Based Recipes for Optimal Health.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll be looking for those.
Those are available on Amazon.com.
Okay. All right. Well, we just take a look at it.
Thank you.